Okay, so coming back, so the first topic which is going to be Java environment, and second one which is going to be about your looping structures, and third one which is about operators. So these are the three topics that we are going to discuss today. So here, Java, which is one of the important language. So this particular language, which has some various features, various important features, and this language, which is going to be like an important one, important initiation point for any language that you're using now. It may be an client-side scripting or server-side scripting or server-based systems for all those things, or web-based applications for all those any applications that we have now, even the Android applications, whatever that we are using in phones. For all these applications, this particular language, which is going to be acts like an starting point. Okay, so always we have to give some much importance to this particular language comparing to all the other languages. um, so you people know very well about C programming. So based on C only, the existence of C++, and based on C++ only, where comes the existence of Java. So moreover, each and every language which is dependent on one another. So here we used to call this particular language, Java language, as architecture neutral language. So this is going to be an important technical term here. So architecture neutral language, in sense, whatever may be the computer architecture that you're going to use, it may be any machine architecture, or it may be any operating system that you're going to use. In all those platforms, this particular language which used to run without any disturbance. So it used to support any architecture that we are going to use. That's why we used to call this particular language as architecture neutral language. And then from this, we used to have this particular thing, WORA. We used to call it as an ORA. Java is an ORA. ORA in the sense, write once and run anywhere. You could write this program on any system that you want, and suppose if you want to execute it on any system, you could execute on any system that you want. That's why we used to call this particular language feature as ORA, write once and run anywhere. The next thing is Java environment. So Java environment, which is an important one, so because instead of going in depth into the Java, we must know some basic things about Java. So what is the Java environment, and what are the things that we have in Java environment, and how we have to make use of those things. So these things are very important to us. So in Java environment, the first thing which is about development tools, where comes your JDK. JDK stands for Java Development Kit. And then second one, which is about classes and methods. So you have some thousands and thousands of classes and methods in Java only by using these classes and methods. So we have some inbuilt classes and methods. Using these classes and methods only, we are going to make use of all those applications that you are developing. So these classes and methods, in short, we used to call it as JSL. JSL stands for um, JSL stands for Java Standard Library, or else we used to call it as an API. API stands for Application Programming Interfaces. So we have some more names for these classes and methods. So this collection of classes and methods we used to call it as an application programming interface. So what is the application that we're going to develop using some programs, Java programs? These classes and methods which is going to act like an interface for us. So we used to call it as an API, and simply we used to call it as Java standard libraries. So using these libraries only, we are going to get into these applications. So these are the two important things. The first one is about JDK, and next one, second one is about API. Together we used to call it as in Java environment. So the next thing is about JDK. So in JDK, we used to have them a number of components. The components are applet viewer, interpreter, Java compiler, and Java doc, and then Java H, and then Java P, and then JDB. So these are the various components that we have in JDK. So using these components only, we would be able to create a program, we would be able to compile it, we would be able to execute it, and then whatever the processing option that we have to perform, using these various components, we would be able to perform these things. The first one is about what? Applet viewer. Applet viewer. So whatever the program, applet program that you're going to create, and suppose whatever the applet program that you have to execute. For all those things to execute an applet program, surely we need the support of applet viewer. Without the support of applet viewer, we won't be able to execute any applet program. Okay, so applet program is going to be a tiny program, a small program, which is going to do some small processing options, which used to have some simple things over it. And then the purpose of applet is, suppose instead of a normal program, suppose you have to you're going to create some program, and suppose you have to host it in internet. For internet based programs, we need the support of applet concept. Okay, so you could develop some simple applet, and then you could put it in any web page that you want. And then suppose you're going to host it in a server, anyone from different locations could view that particular applet and able to execute that particular applet. So this is going to be important about the applet viewer. And second one, which is about Java in the sense interpreter. So the interpreter that we have here is JVM, Java Virtual Machine. So using this JVM, Java Virtual Machine only, we are converting. We are not converting, but which makes this particular language as architecture neutral language. Okay. So suppose if you have JVM in any machine, there we would be able to run your Java program. The only requirement to execute your Java applications is JVM. So whatever may be the machine or wherever that you have to execute, the only requirement is JVM. Okay. So Java interpreter, which is the one which used to take bytecode and which used to execute that particular bytecode, and which is going to be in convertible program here. And then next one is the compiler, Java C, Java compiler, which used to take the source code. So whatever the source code that you're going to type, that will be taken as an input, and that will be converted into a bytecode. To convert the source code into an bytecode, we are using Java compiler. This particular option, bytecode option, which makes this particular language, which is language as a secure language. So any application that you are developing, and suppose if you have to develop it in a secure way, surely we need the support of this bytecode option. So Java compiler, which converts your source code into what, bytecode. That's about Java compiler. And then Java doc. So suppose if you are using any HTML features, or suppose we have to embed any HTML codes along with your program codes. So for that we need the Java doc as an important component. So that's about Java doc. Next one, Java H. Java H stands for Java header files. And suppose if you have some methods in C++, and suppose you have to make your program to interact with those native methods, we used to call it an NAIVE, naive. Naive in the sense native methods in short, but technically we used to call it naive method, NAIVE. So those native methods, suppose you have to integrate, and suppose if you have to perform something, suppose you have to merge the Java functionalities with C++ functionalities, you could use this Java H as an option. And next one, which is about Java P, we used to call it as an Java disassembler. Okay, so it's normally used to take bytecode as an input, and which used to convert that bytecode as in program descriptions. So it's going to create some descriptions from your bytecode. So that's about disassembler. So using, and then the last thing is about JDB. JDB stands for Java debugger. So this debugger, so what are the error which is going to occur over there, to find out what is the type of the error, and from where the error comes, and what's the purpose of error, and how to rectify it, and how to correct it. So all those will be done by this Java debugger. So using these components only, we are going to create program, and then we are going to compile the program, and then we're going to, after compilation, we're going to convert into bytecode, and making bytecode, we're going to execute your program. So these are various important components. Altogether, simply we used to call it JDK, Java Development Kit. So using these tools only, we are going to develop your program. Okay, so we have some various versions of JDK, starting from 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, and currently we have some 1.8 versions. So we have some various versions, and using this version only, we are doing our programs. Okay, and next one, which is the second part in Java environment, is your API, application programming interface. So in this API, you have some various types, like language support packages. We have a number of packages, application programming interfaces, and then within this we have some number of packages like language support packages, utility packages, IO packages, network packages, AWT, and applet. So these are some of the packages that we have, and use சொல்லுங்கம்மா.
அர்ச்சனா நான ஆட் ஆக முடியல அப்படின்னு சொன்னாங்க ஆட் பண்ண
Okay, ma. Wait, I will add.
சார் அதே மாதிரி இது பிபிடி வியூ ஆகல சார்
PPT view ஆகலையா?
அப்பல இருந்து வியூ ஆகல சார்
Wait, ma, I will check it out. Do anyone yet to join?
நோ சார் எல்லாரும் ஜாயின் பண்ணிட்டாங்க
Okay, ma. Thank you. Now, would you people able to view the screen ma now?
நோ சார்
The presentation screen, PPT.
நோ சார்
Ma now? Would you people able to view the? Okay.
எஸ் சார்
Okay. Okay. I am continue with that, ma. So the next thing which is about this API. So you have some a number of packages. So using these packages only normally we used to do the programs. So you have some a set of libraries. So these libraries only we normally you would able to create programs. So these packages, which in the sense, for example, suppose you're going to invoke java dot io dot asterisk semicolon. Here java which is going to be in main package and io which is going to be in sub package, and then within this package you will have some various n number of classes and methods which is related to inputs and output. So whatever the input and output that we are going to handle in your program, for all those input and output we are going to use this io as an package. So depends on the functionality that you're going to include within your program, and depends on the action that you're going to do within your program, you have to include appropriate package. Suppose you're going to create some chatting options, uh, like those things. So for that you need the support of networking package to send the message and receiving messages. And then suppose you're going to create some desktop based applications or windows based applications, there you need the support of abstract window toolkits as a package. So depends upon the coding that you're going to do, you have to include some appropriate packages. So these are things about packages. So together jdk and API we used to call it as in Java environment. And then the next one which is about Java program structure. So normally in Java program to simply suppose you have to code something, it's very simple. Class name, and then opening braces, main method. So public static void main, and then one more opening braces. Within this, simply we're going to print a statement, hello world. So system.out.println within double quotes, hello world, and then we are going to close with some two more closing braces. So that's it. Just with some 3 lines, we would be able to create a simple Java program, and we would be able to execute that particular Java program. So the important thing here is at least we must have a single class name, and we must have a main method to create your program and to execute your program. Okay. Yeah, so in Java program structure, at least we need some one class to define the main method, and then we used to have some n number of data members and methods. So data members for processing data and methods to act on those data members, we need the support of methods. And then we have some few section and statements here. So we have documentation section, that's going to be the first one. Next one, we have some various statements like package statement, and then import statement, interface statement, and then class definitions, and then you will have main methods. So these are some various things that we have. So normally this package statement, interface statement, import statement, all these things are optional one. The essential things are the main method, and then the class definitions. So these things which seems to be an essential one in this Java program structure. So that's it about program structure. And the next one which is about looping structures. So looping means you people know very well. Looping in the sense which is going to be an important technique in high level programming language. So to perform something repetitively, for example, we are going to take something. For example, you are taking a ball within your hand, and suppose if you have to make it bounce for 10 times repetitively, so you have to put it down, so it's going to jump first, and then second time repetitively we are going to perform this ball bouncing option for more than 10 times, are exactly for 10 times repetitively. So these types of doing things repetitively we used to call it as an looping. Okay. Repeatedly we are going to execute some statements until satisfying a particular condition. So after satisfying that particular condition, it will terminate automatically. And then we have some various things in this control flow. So actually looping statement, we used to have some control flow in its executions. So normally we used to execute a program in a sequential manner. Instead here in looping options, depends upon the conditions that whatever they are going to mention in this looping options, it used to change the flow of the program from one part of the program to another part of the program. That's why I have given the title as control flow here. So looping, which is going to be one part of control flow, and then another part of control flow is which is going to be decision making statements like if else and nested if else, those things. Now we are going to discuss about looping alone. And then here in looping we have some segments of loop. Segments of loop in the sense basically two things: the body of the loop and then statement, a simple statement whatever they are going to use for processing the loop. So these are which is going to be in segments of looping. And then we have some two forms of looping options as entry controlled loop and exit controlled loop. So depends upon how you are going to check the condition and how you are going to process the statement. Suppose at first you're going to check the condition and then you're going to start processing your statements, which is about entry controlled loop. In entry part itself we used to have some control. After checking the condition only we used to start executing a set of statements. In exit control loop, at first time alone we used to execute some set of statements and then we used to check the condition for the first time alone, and then the remaining things will happen in both the case it used to happen in the same way. So we have some two types of loops as exit and entry control loop, where entry control loop means a simple while loop which is going to be an entry control, and exit control in this is a do while construct which is an example for your exit control loop. And then we have some four steps in looping process. The four steps are initialization, and then condition, and then increment or decrement, and then body of the statement or body of the loop, whatever that you have. So these are some four steps whatever that we used to performing in looping process. And then we have some three constructs. For example, the first one which is going to be in for, and second is going to be in while, and third one is going to be in do while. In all these things, for, while, and do while, in all these looping constructs, we used to perform or we used to do the same thing. Same thing in the sense whatever the steps, four steps that we have, all those four steps could be done in all these different three constructs. Okay. So whatever the thing that we would be able to do in while, the same thing we would be able to do in for loop and also in do while loop. Okay. So that's the thing. So but based on the syntactic structure, these three constructs which is going to be differ. So based on where you're going to initialize and where you're going to check the condition and where you're going to include the increment and decrement. So based on these things, these three constructs which is going to be differ over here. And then we have some different forms of for loop here. So in Java, this is going to be an additional and important thing. So we have some different forms of for loop. So for example, the first thing is about you would able to use them one or more initialization, and then second thing which is about one or more increment or decrement. So in the same statement, we would able to use one or more initialization or one or more increment and decrement option. And then in test condition, we would be able to include the compound relationships. So like some relational using some relational operators and using some conditional operators, logical operators, we would include some compound relations in conditions. And then you have some enhanced for loop option. So using some simple tactics, we would be able to process the statements in the for loop using these enhanced options. So these are some of the additional options that we have in Java. um, so that's it about this control flow. And the last one, which is about operators. So you people know very well about operators because you people are learning it from first year itself. So for manipulating data, so what is the data that we have in a program are variable, and then to perform some mathematical or logical manipulation, we are using these operators. So operator, which is going to be very very important question here. And then you have some various types of operators like arithmetic, relational, logical, assignment, increment and decrement, conditional, bitwise, and special operators. So these are some various types of operators that we have. And the first one, which is about arithmetic operators, so people know the symbols like plus, minus, asterisk, division symbol, and then modulo symbol. Are all those things which is an arithmetic operators. But we have some three types over here. The three types are integer arithmetic, and then real arithmetic, and then mixed mode arithmetic. So in integer arithmetic, so you're going to use operands, and then you're going to use operator here. So suppose if both of the operands, which is going to be an integer based operands, then we used to call it as an integer arithmetic. Suppose if any one of the operand which is going to be an real mode operand, then we used to call that particular operation as an real mode arithmetic operations. So real mode, in the sense, you will have some decimal places in the operand value. And then mixed mode, in the sense, you will have the combinations of both the integer mode and then real mode based operations. So these are some three types of arithmetic operation that we have. And next one is about relational. So to check out some relations, either it's a greater one or lesser one or equal to one, or which is not equal to one. To check the relations, we used to use these relation operator to check which one is greater and which one is lesser, whether two numbers are equal or not. So to checking those options, we used to use this relational operators. And third one is about logical in the sense, we have two operators like double ampersand and double vertical line. We used to call it an AND operator and OR operator. So AND operator, in the sense, it used to check the conditions on both left and right. So suppose if both left and right, the condition is going to be true, and then the resultant value is going to be true, or else the resultant value is going to be false. And then OR operator, in the sense, it used to check and both on any one of the sides. And suppose if the result is going to be an true, the resultant value is going to be true, and the answer is going to be an true. And then here, in both relational and logical operators, the result value is going to be either true or false. It's going to return the results as true or false. So that's going to be the thing here. And next one, which is going to be an assignment operator. So assignment operators, in the sense, we have some various examples, like for example, a plus equal to 1. So this is going to be a simple expression. So this is going to be, here we have used assignment operation. So a plus equal to, so we have used assignment operator over here. So normally we would convert this simple expression like a equal to a plus 1. So while using the increment operator to perform some arithmetic operations, normally we used to use this assignment based operations. So instead of writing a equal to a plus 1, we would able to write it as a plus equal to 1. Okay. So this is going to be one form of using assignment operator. And then next thing which is going to be increment or decrement operator. So we have two types here as pre-increment or post-increment. So pre-increment in the sense it used to increment and also it used to assign the results at the same time. So we used to call it as pre-increment. Post-increment in the sense it used to increment, but it used to assign the results only in the next execution. So normally we used to use this increment option in looping structures. So at those times, to increment and assign the results at the same time, we have to use pre-increment. So we have to use the increment operator prior to the operand, whatever that you have. And then post increment in the sense we used to use those operators next to the operand, to the right of the operand we used to use. So we used to call it as an post increment. So these are the two different types of increment or decrement operators that we have. And the next one is going to be conditional operator. So conditional operator is the question mark and then colon symbol, which is going to be like an similar thing like your if else, similar to if else it used to work. So question mark for checking condition and colon symbol to separate the results as true and false we used to use. So prior to your question mark or to the left of your question mark you will have the condition, and to the next to the question mark you will have the true results, and then you have a colon symbol, and to the right of your colon symbol you will have the false result. So normally to check some condition and to return the results as true or false, we used to use this conditional operator. So we normally we used to check some conditions and then we used to process. That's why we used to call it as a conditional operator. This is going to be one of the important operator. Normally they used to ask this question in 1 mark. So what is the conditional operator that we have and how it used to work? So that's this is going to be an important operator. And next one is going to be bitwise operators. Bitwise for bitwise processing we used to use this bitwise operator. Bitwise processing in the sense we used to take some numerical value and then we used to convert into bit patterns, and using those bit patterns we used to process as one complement or two complement or left shift or right shift. So for bitwise processing we used to use this bitwise operator. And then the last one, special operator. For example, we have a function like instance of operator. So this instance of function which used to check whether a particular object belongs to a class or not. So to check it out those things, we used to use this instance of function. So these are some of the various operators that we have in Java. So thank you for spending your time and thank you for listening. Okay. So thank you, students. So with this, I would like to stop this session. So thank you, students. Thank you.